1 month from losing her house, her father-in-law's house, and a house that they were building to the LA wildfires. Claire O'Connor of Berkshire, Hathaway, California Properties and O'Connor Estates joined us on the RealTrending podcast to talk about her experience rebuilding the LA market, and really just kind of some lessons learned that every agent can take away in who's gone through any type of adversity and needs to move forward with their business. So enjoy the podcast. Claire, welcome to the RealTrending podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I first want to say, I'm so sorry to hear that you lost your home during the LA wildfires. And I wanted to have you talk a little about that and that experience. It has to be devastating.
Definitely devastating. We lost our home. We lost a home that we had under construction, and we also lost my father-in-law's home. So I think it's been quite a time, but I feel really grateful for, the things that have happened, such as finding housing. Kind of like it's working with people who are looking to buy homes. There's always this, people are just kind of casually looking, or maybe they're moving because of a divorce or a new job, or, it's an exciting thing. For this type of looking for housing, it felt primal. It felt like this need to just settle my family. So it's kind of put a whole new perspective on the process for me.
Yeah. So tell me about the evacuation. I've talked to a couple different realtors who kind of figured, well, they were in Pacific Palisades and they said, I packed a bag, but we're used to this, so I didn't really pack as much as I should have. What was your experience?
It was similar. I was at a sales meeting I'm with Berkshire Hathaway, and our manager wrapped up the meeting and we were all sitting around. And I remember it's kind of one of those things like, where were you on September 11th? Where were you when Princess Diana died?
Yeah.
And where were you when the wildfires started? And I was sitting in my office and I just heard somebody say, there's a fire at the top of Las Lomas. And I knew that wasn't going to be good. We knew the winds were bad. I thought houses were going to burn down. I never in a million years thought the village was going to be wiped out. So my first inclination was to go to my father-in-law's house because he lived closer to Malibu. That's the way we thought that the fires were going. The traffic was horrible. So luckily my husband took one route and I had taken Sunset, and luckily I turned around. But driving over there, I could see flames. I could see the thick plume of smoke, and sort of like you mentioned, it's not unusual to have fires, especially up where that fire started, but to see that thick of smoke and for it to be kind of moving horizontally across the horizon, it just definitely wasn't good. And then I thought, we'll just bring him to our house. So I turned around, I got to my house, and my nanny was frantically putting my 9-month-old in the car. And I kind of was like, oh, don't worry about you want to leave? And she wanted to go to my parents' house. We're in Santa Monica. And I was like, fine. Yeah, we'll go to Santa Monica. Go inside. Felt like I was being really dramatic, packing 2 pairs of underwear. But I figured we probably wouldn't be allowed to go home for a couple of days. And then, the day sort of unfolded. And I think back on that day and the day after, and there's so many things that I know happened because I look at my phone and I can see that they happened, like people I talked to or text messages I received, but I don't remember any of them. I was absolutely in a state of shock. I watched one of my good friends' houses burn down on the news. And when I saw that, I knew, she lives really close to the village, which I did as well. And I just was like, oh my God, I have texts to people saying, oh my God, the Palisades is about to be wiped out. And I don't even remember feeling that or thinking that. So you kind of, when you hear about things, you hear about them happening to other people, and then having it happen to you, obviously the fires and the shock, but
Hmm.
also like the experience of trauma is
Yeah.
it's really crazy.
Yeah. And how long was it before you were able to actually visit this site where your home once was?
So I think there's people in two camps.
Hmm.
So my husband and I are in opposite camps. I think of this as a death. I feel
Hmm.
like our home is, I want to remember it as the happy place that it was for
Hmm.
us. I always said it was a happy home.
Hmm.
It had like amazing energy and we had such a happy life there. And I want to remember that. So I haven't been back. I feel the same way about the community. My husband
Hmm.
wanted to get back as soon as possible. And I think it's kind of like wanting to see a loved one on their deathbed or wanting
Yeah.
or not, or having like a resistance to that.
Hmm.
So he's been back so many times. He's
Hmm.
just constantly, anytime he can go back, he goes back. Well, now
Yeah.
anybody who lives there who lived there can go back. But yeah, so he's been at what was our construction site,
Hmm.
kind of cleaning up there. And then he also yesterday went to our actual house.
Okay. And are you, since you were building a new house, right? Are
Mhm.
you, so what are you, what is your plan going forward? Are you going to rebuild the house that you left, or are you going to, what are you going to do? You've got really two houses that you know.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, we're very invested in the Palisades. So we one thing that has actually kind of driven me crazy in the discourse after the fire is hearing real estate agents um, talk about how many people are going to go back, and oh, only 70% or 30% of people will go back. That drives me nuts. Because as a person who lost a home, even yes, I'm a real estate agent, but as a person who lost a home, I have no idea what we're going to do. Nobody does. I know, like, I don't even know what I'm doing next week. I mean, luckily we found a house, but I'm just like focusing on moving forward. I'm focusing on talking to insurance. I'm focusing on, making sure my friends are okay, making sure my clients are okay, making sure they're settled. And it feels like it feels gross to me that other agents are devaluing the Palisades and increasing the value of their listings in Beverly Hills, Bel Air, because the Palisades was an incredible place to live. I got to see the ocean every day. It's stunning. It's beautiful. I always say it was like living on vacation. I went hiking in the morning. I could go to the beach with my kids after school. Um, it will definitely come back. Like 100%. It's the most desirable place, in my opinion, in the world to live. So when I get all impassioned like that, duh, of course I'm coming back. But then there's the part of me that's a mom that worries about, the things we're so lucky this fire started at 10:30 in the morning and not 10:30 at night. Um, and that will keep me up at night probably. I mean, I really haven't slept that much since January 7th,
Yeah.
but probably for a lot longer as well. So we'll see.
Yeah.
It's like a constant conversation.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in Florida. I'm inland, but we obviously have hurricanes, and so I can kind of see the mentality too of like, oh, it's not really going to hit us, because we've
Mhm.
been through that multiple times where we're like, it could come right through here, but it could not. So,
Right.
so yeah, it's just like, I don't know. It's really hard to even plan for something like that, especially when it's last minute and you're rushing around and you're not really sure how serious to be, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and so,
Everybody thinks about what they take from their house, and
yeah.
if there's a fire, you kind of have that exercise at some point, not be
Mhm.
but that's kind of like what's special to me. That's not really because you actually think a fire will burn down your house.
Right.
And so in that actual moment, what I was thinking was like, I need toothpaste. It wasn't
Mhm.
like, let me get the baby book my mom made for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you continue to work with clients through
Mhm.
this, helping them find rentals, I assume, or other housing. How is that emotionally for you? Has it pushed off the grieving process, or did you just grieve along with other people? Like, how has that been emotionally?
I feel I only work with people I like. So the people that I've worked with have become close friends of mine.
Hmm.
One of them's just closed an escrow, just got confirmation of recording. Another is still looking. Uh, I feel like again, I think I'm running on adrenaline,
Hmm.
definitely. It's been, I think, healing. We're all
Hmm.
sort of trauma bonded, and it's this indescribable thing. And to share that experience, it's kind of devastating because if my house burned down in the Palisades, my house would just burn down, and maybe I'd
Hmm.
buy another one or I'd rent in the Palisades and I'd still get to live in the Palisades. So the fact that all of our houses burned down, it means that I have people to go through this with, but it also means we have nothing to go back to right now.
Right.
And that's really, really devastating. So I'm I'm thrilled that in this time there's something I can do to help.
Hmm.
And I've been pretty frantic
Yeah.
about finding uh, either leases. The leasing thing went really crazy. So
Hmm.
that was just insane.
Yeah.
And then now a lot of people are thinking they'd rather because like
Hmm.
people are saying different timelines. Nobody really knows how long it's going to take, and so people want to go back. So for people who can, it makes more sense to invest in a property than to pay rent indefinitely when insurance is capped out at ridiculous rates for the west side of
Yes.
LA.
Yeah. And I know that the other realtors that I've heard of from the Pacific Palisades are kind of disgusted by agents reaching out from other areas and that, but they are getting a lot of calls because they know that the Palisades realtors have contacts who can buy the house that they have for sale or refer business to them. What are you seeing? Are you getting a lot of calls from realtors in other areas?
I'm getting not that.
Okay.
But there is agent behavior that I have found to be despicable. I think as agents, it's really important that we are conducting ourselves with extreme professionalism,
Hmm.
considering like the current discourse. Um, and I'm just this morning, I texted an agent, I mean, one of my clients, a friend said, oh, this agent says she has pockets north of Montana. And
Hmm.
I texted her and I said, hey, I know about a lot of these pockets, but if there's
Hmm.
anything I don't know about, I'm happy to offer a referral fee. I just want to find something for my clients. And her
Right.
response was, what kind of referral fee are we talking? And I'm like,
Right.
I literally opened this conversation by telling you their house burned down. And she's
Right.
a Palisades agent. Like, whoa. That is like there's that and then price
Hmm.
gouging, and there's just so much that's been going on that I find horrendous. And I mean, I could get on my soapbox and talk about it for
Hmm.
hours, but I think it's really important as agents right now to conduct ourselves like, I mean, there's the abundance mindset, right? Like,
Hmm.
I just want people to have houses because I know what it
Yeah.
feels like not to have one. The feeling of being displaced is like nothing I've ever felt before. So for me, that's all I care about. If somebody tells me somebody needs a house and I know about a house that would work for them, I don't
Hmm.
care if I'm getting a referral fee or not. Like
Yeah.
that's insane. We're all going to
Yeah.
make a lot of money. Like, let's be honest. Like
Yeah.
5,000 people just lost their houses.
Right.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
And how has your practice changed since then? Have you, kind of, you've changed your focus because you've had to change your focus, obviously. But,
Mhm.
have you had any like aha moments where going forward, you're going to do business differently or I don't know, just anything that
Mhm.
you feel like needs to be changed moving forward?
So I worked at Berkshire Hathaway in the Palisades because I had a fabulous manager and
Hmm.
he's like the most incredible leader, and I'll never leave him. Um, 20 agents in my office lost
Wow.
houses. And so, and a lot of those agents were hyper local. They were Palisades agents. Like we were a Palisades office with Palisades agents, and they're incredible agents, been there for decades, like the best of the best. So I felt like I got to learn from really great people, and I still do. Um, My business has always been more design focused. I work with different designers, and I do development as well. So I've been like flipping houses, but more high end designer partnerships, and that's been really successful for me. And in this time, I'm grateful for it because I wasn't as focused on the Palisades, and so that's something I'm going to continue to focus on. One area or one thing I'm starting to see with buyers, and I will probably pivot my development business based on that, is that buyers, I think that there will be a boom south of Sunset, which is away from the hills. So the hills have great views, but they're also more fire prone. Um, and we moved to Santa Monica, and I mean, I never thought where I lived was unsafe.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel safe here in terms of I don't feel like this house would never burn down, but I at least feel like I would have time if a wildfire started to get my kids out, which is,
Mm-hmm.
it's just where your brain goes. So, yeah, I think that uh, kind of formula
Mm-hmm.
is entering a lot of buyers' brains now of like, what would I do if there was a fire and how would I get out? And that's sort of natural, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I know in the coastal areas of Florida where they've been flooded twice in, a matter of a couple of weeks, new
Mhm.
buyers are always considering that now moving to Florida. So I can see that in moving within Florida. Um, do you see any other buyer preferences really changing? Have you had people asking you questions that you've never gotten before when looking for a house or
Mm,
working with a development?
yeah, I mean, I'm working with clients now who are really at every listing, they want to know what the evacuation routes are.
Hmm.
There's an area near the freeway that kind of only has one way in, one way out, and it's great. And it feels like a neighborhood, and it feels similar to what we had in the Palisades because they lived very close to me. Um, but they don't want to live there because they don't want to feel trapped.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a little bit of that.
Hmm.
For me, there was an area in the Palisades called the Highlands, and it's half the price per foot of the rest of the Palisades because it's about 10 minutes up Sunset into the hills.
Hmm.
And it's the reason that it's a lower price per foot is because it's a little bit further and because it feels like your house could burn down. You're surrounded by brush. And
Hmm.
half of that neighborhood is still standing.
Oh.
My house that was like in the flats right
Hmm.
next to the village, if I was in the alphabet streets, it's leveled. I mean, a
Yeah.
bomb went off there. And so in terms of for me, I don't know if it's the right
Hmm.
mentality, but I'm like, anywhere can burn, anywhere can not burn.
Yeah.
So, it's really more about being prepared, having fire
Hmm.
resistant building materials, having sprinklers. I mean, not that sprinklers helped in an
Hmm.
inferno, but, taking the precautions to,
Hmm.
that's what we get to live in LA, but it's a part of
Hmm.
living in LA now.
Yeah. And tell me a little bit about your specialty and how you got into it.
Into development.
Yeah.
Um, I think I really just saw an opening in the market because a lot of flips were happening on the east side. And I was seeing a lot of kind of up and coming, really cool designers that were buying houses on the lower end and just maybe increasing the value by a small margin. And I thought this is something we could do on the west side with much bigger increases. A lot of agents on the west side have been doing the same thing the same way for a long time, decades. And I was noticing poor marketing. And as a young family, I knew what appealed to me, and I knew that that wasn't really out there in this market. And so, luckily, I had the resources to pursue that, and I've formed some really cool partnerships with different design teams. And we've focused on obviously like incredible design forward listings, but also staging that's boutique or even completely bespoke from different furniture stores in the area, and then photography with architectural or editorial photographers. And that's been very successful for us. And we've increased the value by millions of dollars on all of our listings.
That's great.
It's
Congratulations.
really fun. Yeah, I really
Yeah.
enjoy. I mean, I spend most of my time on construction sites now, and I think it's really interesting.
So let's talk a little bit about your business goals. I'm sure they've shifted some, but how are you looking to expand into other market segments or market areas? Just doing what you're doing. I know that you're probably in that in between stage where you're not quite sure. You're just, handling the immediate right now. But, what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, definitely. I'm focusing on kind of what's right in front of me, but also what's in front of me is this huge catastrophe. And
Mm-hmm.
so we do development. We have a construction company, and so my husband, I like I said, I don't really want to go back, but my
Yeah.
husband has sort of shifted the focus of that company towards rebuilding the Palisades and
Mm-hmm.
partnering with different, I mean, kind of creating a consortium of architects and designers. And he bought a fire suppression company that
Mm-hmm.
has these really innovative sprinklers that are more like noodles than sprinklers, so
Mm-hmm.
they don't it's not so the wind can't affect their
Okay.
ability to wet a roof.
Mm-hmm.
um, and it's called West Side Build, and he's really focused on getting back. So
Yeah.
that's why we probably will end up back in the Palisades, because my
Yeah.
husband is like, we found utopia. We found
Mm-hmm.
like the place that we wanted to raise our family. Like, we're not going to let this stop us from living there. And we also had this incredible lot that where we were building.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of a big pivot in terms of where we're focusing our investment right now.
Yeah.
Um, and it feels good to be able to contribute to the community we love. I mean,
Yeah.
in my opinion, there's no competition with builders because everybody needs a builder.
Yeah.
So I think it's same as I think with real estate agents. I think
Mm-hmm.
everybody should be working together, collaborating.
Mm-hmm.
Logistics. I think Rick Caruso has this nonprofit he started. I hope that he oversees the logistics of rebuilding the Palisades, because I think he's just a really good businessman in that regard.
Yeah, that's great. So let's go back to pre-fire days and
Yeah.
tell me kind of the best business advice that you've received and how it helped shape your career.
So I used to work when I was really lucky to work kind of under multiple agents before I went out on my own. I worked with a woman named Paula Ross Jones, and she told me to make new friends when I first started, and to this is more advice to a new agent. Show me to make new friends, join new groups, and never say I just started in real estate. Always say I'm a real estate agent, because your friends that you have before you become a real estate agent are always a little like, yeah, you're a real estate whatever. And then I also worked with a guy named David Kalmanson, who's like extremely detail oriented, meticulous about contracts, and he always said, don't put in writing what you wouldn't want written or read aloud in court. Not because we were doing anything bad, but
Yeah.
it's something that I think about all the time. Like, would I
Hmm.
want somebody to read this aloud to people who didn't understand the context or didn't, know
Right.
the legalities of it? So
Yeah.
I think about that like on a daily basis. Like, would I want this written aloud in court? No. Read
Yeah.
aloud in court. So
That is great advice, actually. I mean, you could even,
yeah,
say, would I want this read aloud for my mom to hear or my dad,
right, exactly. I know, and I've been
Yeah.
firing real hot lately, so I need to really remember that right now.
Oh gosh. So obviously in the type of work that you're doing a lot of marketing. So how are you leveraging like technology and AI and digital marketing in your business right now?
Um, my sister and I really gained our Instagram following through videos on
Mhm.
Instagram. Um, that's something that's worked really well for us. We do really like studio. or, very produced studio shoots. That's my sister. My sister and I work together, and she used to be
Yes.
a news anchor, and
Mm-hmm.
she totally drags me along for that stuff. But as you're probably experiencing now, as soon as I start talking, I don't stop. And then we also do a lot of Google ads, and a lot of the investment that we do in Google ads, we do obviously do Google ads for listings, but we also invest in like brand advertising,
Mm-hmm.
because our brand is the two of us, and this kind of design forward approach to all of our listings. So yeah.
Okay. And your sister's name is Sam, correct?
Sam, yes. I
Yeah.
call her Samantha, but I'm literally one of one, and the only one.
Oh, so is there anything new that that you found that has kind of changed your business or changed the way you do business?
Um, you know, Not really. I wish that I had jumped more on the AI train than I already have. We obviously
Mm-hmm.
use ChatGPT for a lot of things.
Yeah.
Um, but what we have kind of relied on is being high touch, uh, real relationship agents.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably to our detriment sometimes, because I find myself driving all over LA, sitting in traffic all the time, because we try and be really present for everything that we do for our clients. But yeah, no, probably AI is really the only
Yeah.
thing that I can
I
think
would
of.
argue that your high touch is what's making your business so good. So, I
Thank
mean,
you. I
other
mean,
than
well,
having
it
to
just
drive a lot,
right,
you know,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, but we're always like, we're not a huge team, so we don't
Mhm.
send like our assistants to all these inspections, blah blah blah,
Yeah.
and then we like have to go to inspections in like Pasadena, and we're like, damn it.
Yeah, I could see. I've heard about LA traffic before. I've
Yeah.
never experienced it, so I don't know.
Okay, well,
My
you'll have
last
to come out.
question,
It doesn't take long.
yeah. Well, my last question is just, what advice do you have for agents who are really struggling in this market right now? Not necessarily because of the wildfires, but just because of the market, the slow market, or just struggling with the post settlement, policies and changes.
Um, some other advice I received was from a great agent in on the West Side, who said that she wasn't changing a thing post settlement, that she was going to continue to work with clients as if, of course, she would get paid, whether it was through them or from the sellers. Um, she tends to be like extraordinarily confident, but it's helped me, and my sister inform our approach, and being really really understanding our value. I think it's been great, honestly. I think that forcing the conversation with buyers, I feel like my time is less wasted now. I know if somebody's working with me, or if they're just playing the field, or, we're always trying to, before I was always trying to be cool. Like, I don't want them to think I'm coming on too strong. Now I'm like, hey, I got to talk about this. And it feels better working with people. And so I think that is really all I could say that would really be helpful, is just like have the conversation, and not being scared of it.
Yeah. Well, Claire, thank you so much for joining the Real Trending podcast. And I just want to say that we are all with the Palisades, and we hope that you find some, relief from the grief that you're feeling, because I know it's a process. So, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm still running on adrenaline, so I feel like I'm like, oh yeah, I lost all these houses, I'm fine. But
Yeah,
yeah, definitely it's a process, the grieving. So I appreciate
absolutely.
your time. Thank you for
Yeah.
having me.
Thanks, Claire.